Let's revisit the crime statistics for the fourth quarter that Police Minister Bheki Cele has just announced. Over 6,000 people were murdered, while more than 10,000 others were raped in South Africa between January and March of this year. Home invasions increased by 5.9%. Home security expert Mike Bolhuis joins us now for a discussion in terms of the leading factors and what it is that you have seen in the work that you do, Mike. Thank you very much for your time. So we hone in on some of the subcategories of aggravated robbery, and I wonder if we can bring that graphic so our viewers can see with us. So we've got the robbery at residential premises, and you take a look at the number for January to March 2022, it was at 5,267. January to March 2023, we sit at 5,578. What does this tell you, Mike?
It's unfortunate, but there's quite a few factors that has made the last years crime escalate. And I would say load shedding, poverty, and even the COVID before that, and political instability, corruption in the political field as well as in the field of the authorities, and in other words, police corruption, all plays a role here. I think poverty is one of the main reasons why smaller crimes are committed, like grabbing a handbag or a cell phone and just taking stuff out of a house. But the more violent crime cases is also due to the lack of, there's no fear or respect for the authorities. The police cannot really protect and serve, and they can commit this crime and can get away with it.
When we take a look, especially at robbery at residential premises, there's a story that is doing the rounds. It was reported that a criminal that was arrested had footage on his cell phone where he was strangling a young boy. So what is the modus operandi of people when they do gain entry into your household? What do people need to be aware of in the lack or in the absence of security? As you mentioned, when load shedding kicks in, it kicks out the alarm.
It does. We all must be in survival mode. We all must be positively paranoid. We have to make sure, first of all, that obviously if we can afford it, because most can't, to do as much as possible to make sure that your property cannot be entered or your goods cannot be stolen. If you do have the money and you have proper alarming systems in place, it's at least a warning. And if you as a community can work together with safety and security groups and you've got a good relationship with your local police, if there's good relationships between the people and they all stand together with one common attitude, and that's to prevent, identify, evaluate, investigate, and prevent crime, then it can work. But unfortunately, South Africans very seldom really stand together. And unfortunately, most South Africans, in the 90%, just have enough money to live day by day. But then also to make sure that you don't have any valuables or any form of attraction that criminals would want from you. So if you have a lot of stuff, you're going to have to hide the stuff because it's the haves that are targeted. If you've got very little stuff, you must in any way also that. You must hide it and keep it away and be positively paranoid and be as careful as possible. But it's a shocking situation we find ourselves in our country that people film their crimes, and it's been happening recently, and they brag about their cash in transits, throwing around money or killing people or maiming people, and they send those videos out.
You speak about the importance of communities rallying together, and you also touch on the haves that get targeted. Even the have-nots have the little bit that they have taken away from them. And so when we speak about security, there's also, the crime stats also speak of vigilantism. It's a thin line, right? So when you suspect that this could be a robber, we see many times whether you're passing somewhere, there are people who are carrying bags. Some get what is the word, profiled I guess, by the police, where people get searched because they are suspected to be criminals, or community members are wary of them because they are suspected to be criminals. So when it comes to safety, perhaps just some tips for South Africans.
Well, you've mentioned quite a lot of things. I first of all want to say we many a times forget to say things that really has or can make a difference for the poorest of the poor. You know, I have so many people I deal with, and 90% plus of my cases are with those that already have so little. So their shoes get stolen, their clothes that is hanging outside to dry. So we try and assist those people as well, and there are many in South Africa. And when it comes to authorities and the communities working together, the trust is lost. Unfortunately, the communities, and I'm not saying all policemen are corrupt, there are really maybe 20 or 10% left that really wants to protect and serve, and that is what they should do. But unfortunately, there's no respect for the police. There's no fear for the police, and we've seen so many videos where the police can't even arrest a man because he throws such a severe tantrum when he stopped and searched. So our police really needs to get back to a system where they are being respected and feared on a zero tolerance basis. But this is going to take time, and it doesn't easily happen. So when communities and police operate together, it's very seldom successful unless it is planned properly, discussed properly, and properly identified that everybody in the community knows this is going to happen. But then on the other end, then all the criminals will take a holiday for that weekend and they're not there. So it's a difficult thing to really accomplish. But unfortunately today, so many policemen are involved in crime. So many policemen are involved in house robberies. So many policemen do a secondary steal after a home robbery, and it's shocking. So when a policeman takes something of a criminal site after there's already been a crime committed, it's also a crime, and it has a serious effect on our whole safety and security systems in South Africa where policemen are involved in crime.
Mike, two questions maybe for you. One, should the police be getting paid a little bit more? Will this then deter this kind of behavior? Is there any evidence to suggest this? A second question is the impact of illegal guns that are easily accessible on our streets. Yeah, we always say it as it is. We call the spade a shovel. The story was always pay the police more, pay the police more. But it has not proven that if a policeman gets more, that he would stop being a criminal. The problem with crime in the authorities, it's once it's committed or seen that it's committed and you can do it and can get away with it, crime pays. And there's been so many generals sacked. Unfortunately, none of them in jail. There's been so many politicians sacked. There's been so many people in safety and security identified and sacked and taken to courts and arrested, but very few are really in jail as an example that crime does not pay. So that's the one thing. So the generals and the top brass are getting good money. Policemen have reasonable salaries and they can live with those salaries. But those who really do the work cannot be identified at 20% and say, we'll give you more. Because you're doing your work, because it will cause extreme mayhem. So it's a very difficult, loaded question to answer. Mm-hmm. So my opinion is the police in its totality needs to be re-identified, and those who, let's say, can make it through a forensic polygraph, that their integrity is intact and that they are not thieves and criminals, should stay, the rest should go. Pertaining the weapons, there's even weapons that are confiscated that has never been found again or hired out to the criminals. We've seen this a lot. There's many corrupt cops that rent out firearms, even their own firearms. And fortunately, this has been identified and exposed recently, and it's made a bit of a difference. But illegal arms is probably the most problematic situation when it comes to serious violent crimes in our country, because most farm murders and all other murders are committed with stolen weapons. home security expert Mike Bolhuis. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon.